Hey everyone, it's Alice and welcome to the June round of Hook a Duck TBR. So last month's TBR did not go as well as expected. I am filming this on the 26th, so there is a chance with 5 days left that we could finish a couple more books off. But I think when we get to doing the stats for May, in our May wrap up, I'm going to be disappointed. My brain was not having a good brain time at the beginning of the month. Like, I was rereading basically every sentence because nothing was going in. And then we had 2 read-alongs running together at the end of the month, and I feel like we just gave ourselves a bit too much to do. So it hasn't gone well, which means I am going to take a punishment out of the punishment pot. If it turns out that we've actually beaten our page count target and I'm mistaken, I just won't read whatever the punishment is. But we're going to do a punishment pot. I'm not going to bring the TBR jar back this month though, because I don't want to give myself too much again, because I think I'm just getting a bit bummed out by it all. I don't know if you ever get like that when you give yourself too much to read and then you don't achieve those goals and it just kind of disappoints you. But reading's meant to be fun, and this month it hasn't felt like fun, so we're going to take it back a bit. Hopefully, when we get to filming the July round of this, I'll be a bit more energised and we'll be able to do a bit more for you in July. Again, we were thinking of doing whatever-a-thon, but I mean, we've still got 5 days to decide, but I don't think it's going to end up happening. If we do, we'll aim for 10 books, because you have to aim for the amount of books you want to read and you get points based off of that. So we'll aim for 10, because I think that's kind of what we're going to be about on. I'm not quite sure, I lost track of what happened later. But we'll go for a punishment first and then we'll see what went on with our ducks this month. So we'll go for this one, she says as it slips out of her fingers, and that is a retelling. What do I fancy reading that's a retelling? There's so many retellings, why can I not think of one off the top of my head? Cinder by Marissa Meyer. We were meant to read that already. We've skipped it. Actually, I think maybe we switched it on the TBR. We switched it for Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. So we should have read that in either January or February. And we haven't read it yet. But I've heard amazing things about it. And that seems like a really short one. So we'll go with Cinder by Marissa Meyer for our retelling punishment. Which isn't so much of a punishment. Okay, that's good. We're starting off well. Now let's get on to the duck hooking. Over to past me to hook our first duck. So as always, I'm going to start off by shuffling our prompt cards and trying not to drop them in the water. Again, I'm really bad at shuffling, and those will be on the floor down here. And now we are going to hook 6 ducks for you this month. Obviously, again, if we get 3 of the same colour in a row, we do an extra duck, or if I knock any over, we do an extra duck. So let's go. So to start off with, we have a yellow duck, and a yellow duck is a fantasy duck. And our fantasy prompt for that one is highest rated. And our first duck was a fantasy highest rated book, and I knew instantly what this was, unless anything had been released that had bumped it up, because we actually got fantasy highest rated last month and it was A Court of Mist and Fury. And I can remember saying to Sean, it's such a shame it wasn't second highest rated, because that was Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. We reread Strange the Dreamer in May, so this is the perfect timing. This needs to go back to the library really soon. So it's a good job that this has popped up, because otherwise this needed to be put in here somewhere anyway. This is the sequel to Strange the Dreamer, as I mentioned. There is a boy called Laszlo Strange. He is a librarian. He is fascinated with this mysterious place called Weep, because it used to have a different name, and Laszlo can remember feeling its name stolen from it. Nobody else can really remember, they just know this place is Weep. But whenever he says Weep, he can taste tears and regret and sadness, and he knows that there is a mystery about this place. So Laszlo ends up travelling to Weep, and things occur there, and he begins to learn the secret of the city. So I've read Strange the Dreamer twice now. I reread it in May, but I've never read the sequel because I loved the first book so much I didn't want it to be ruined if the sequel didn't live up to my expectations. but we're reading it now and I'm really excited, and I'm reading it with Sean, so he's holding me accountable. I can't just not finish the series. So our first book for this TBR, other than Cinder, is Muse and Nightmares. Over to past me to pick our second duck. Second duck. Oh no, that's 1 October, so we're doing 7. The camera's closer than it normally is, so I can't actually get to my ducks. Okay, so duck number 2 is a grey duck. And a grey duck is a dealer's choice duck. Silver duck, sorry Sean. And the prompt for that card is a random number generator. Okay, so we've got to think of a topic and then randomly number generate one. Or possibly just randomly number generate one from NetGalley or Goodreads. And our second duck was a silver duck, and that's a dealer's choice duck, and it was a dealer's choice random number generated book. So, I haven't actually generated the number yet. We're going to do this together live on camera, but I have picked the topic that we are using to generate, and I've picked the books that we will be generating. So, there's only 5, but if we get a 1, we're reading Nightblood by Ellie Blake. If we get a 2, we're reading Warstorm by Victoria Aveyard. If we get a 3, we're reading A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. If we get number 4, we're reading Red Tigress by Amelia Wanzhou. And if we get number 5, we are reading Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater, because these are all series that I would like to continue sooner rather than later. So we're going to do series continuation. Let me get a random number generator up and find out which we're reading. I'm nervous because Nightblood is on my books that will self-destruct list because I really don't want to read it. But it's like, this holds me accountable. This means I actually have to read it before it self-destructs. I really hope I don't get a 1. Random number generator. Should have loaded it up first. Sorry. Random.org. And we are generating a number between 1 and 5. And we are generating number 3, which is A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. This is good because this is the second book in the Ember in the Ashes series, and we are actually taking part in an Ember in the Ash along, which is being hosted by Bookish Buddies. Or we're meant to be. We haven't actually read an Ember in the Ashes yet. So now we have to catch up with the read along and read this in June. So that's technically added another book to this TBR, but it's fine. That couldn't have gone better, actually. That's fine. I'm happy with that. Over to Alice to hook our third duck. Duck number 3 of 7. Duck number 3 is a purple duck, and that is a friend pick duck. And this month's friend pick prompt is a book that's released this year. And our third duck was a friend pick duck for a newly released book. So I put a picture of 5 2021 releases in our group chat, and my friend Kieran kindly picked Bury Our Dead with Song. I unboxed this on a little short the other day because I was sent this by Cassava Republic, wasn't expecting it. It is out June 22nd, so I ideally needed it to be read in June anyway. So thank you, Kieran, for picking this one. I don't actually know anything about it. In the heart of Nairobi, 4 musicians, the diva, the Taliban man, the corporal, and 70-year-old bartender Miriam gather for a once-in-a-lifetime competition to see who can perform the best tizita. In the audience is tabloid journalist John Thandi Manfredi, who is enthralled by their renditions of the Ethiopian blues. Desperate to learn more, he follows the musicians back to Ethiopia, hoping to uncover the secret to this haunting music. Manfredi's search takes him from the idyllic Ethiopian countryside to vibrant juke joints and raucous parties in Addis Ababa, set to a soundtrack of stirring tizita performances. From the humble domesticity behind the diva's glamorous facade to the troubling question of the corporal's military service past, Manfredi discovers that the many layers of this musical genre are reflected in the lives and secrets of its performers. That sounds like it's going to be a really nice read. and I'm so grateful to them for sending me a copy, even though I wasn't expecting it and I didn't know anything about it. But I'm reading it in June now, so thank you, Kieran, for picking this one for me. And again, thanks to Cassava Republic for sending it my way. Over to Alice to pick our fourth duck. Duck number 4. Is an orange duck, and that is a sci-fi duck. And the sci-fi prompt for that card is a dystopian. Okay. And our fourth duck was a sci-fi duck, and this was a dystopian read. So, Delirium by Lauren Oliver. One of the books on my These Books Will Self-Destruct list. First book in a series. Love were a disease, and it gets cured. And I'm guessing they probably fall in love anyway. I've had this for the longest time, like since back when I started my blog, so that's 2014. I've had this for 7 years, this whole series, and I haven't read them yet. So, I'm going to start the first one now in June, and hopefully not hate it, and then I've got a series I can carry on with. I'm a bit scared, but it should be a really quick read because dystopians are normally really fast, so this will be a nice one to squeeze in. Over to Past Me for our 5th duck. Duck number 5. I'm going to have to try and go through the ring light because otherwise I'm not going to be able to hook anything else. We've increased the difficulty level this month. Duck number 5 is another silver duck. So that's another dealer's choice duck. And the prompt for that silver duck is a newly purchased book. And our 5th duck was another dealer's choice book duck, and this was for a newly released book. So, thought it was the perfect time to squeeze The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni onto this TBR. So the Fairy Loot read along for this book starts on the 31st of May. So I knew I had to pick this up in June, and surprisingly enough, because it was out in Fairy Loot in April, so we're reading it May to June, it's a new release. Perfect timing. So this says, "Don't let her die, we are coming." I know basically nothing about it. I can find out slightly more for you. 17-year-old Kiva Meriden is a survivor. For 10 years she has worked as the healer in the notorious death prison Zalindov, making herself indispensable. Kept afloat by messages of hope from her family, Kiva has one goal and one goal only: stay alive. Then one day the infamous rebel queen arrives at the prison on death's door and Kiva receives a new message: "Don't let her die, we are coming." I'm not going to read any more than that because I don't want to get spoilers, but that sounds like it's going to be a fast-paced read, and it's also pretty short. So considering this is, I think they do them over a space of a week with like a set amount of chapters each day, should be a nice quick one to squeeze in, and also it's so gorgeous. Like, I hope that the insides are as gorgeous as these outsides because it is stunning, and I love it, and I just want to read it and have it be my new favourite book so that I can love this edition forever. Back over to Alice for our 6th duck. Duck number 6. Try from this side again. Oh, his hook's backwards. Oh no. Duck number 6 is a blue duck, and that is an adult duck. And the prompt for that duck is a BookTube recommended book. And our 6th duck was an adult YouTube favourite. So, being brave, putting another chunky one on this TBR, Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. Who is more of an adult BookTube favourite than Sarah J Maas herself? We carried on with the Court of Mist and Fury in May and enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. Flew through it actually, considering how big it is. We read that in like a week, and that was when my brain was in its worst of the rereading the sentences, hardly digesting anything. So that proves how gripping I found this, and I'm looking forward to carrying on with this series. I was meant to read them back in October, November and December for my own read along, and I didn't do that because I'm a failure. So I have this nicely partitioned out into weekly segments already, and I will be doing it. I will be reading the third and not final book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I'm scared, but there's a lot more politics in these than there is, like, rampant sex. And basically all of the reviews I've heard focus on the romance, focus on the sexual aspects. So I didn't think that I was going to like the world and the politics as much as I do. So I'm hoping that we're going to explore a couple of the other courts, because there's a dawn court and a day court that we haven't been to yet. And I would like it if we could go to them. And I also want to see more from the autumn court, because we've heard a lot about the autumn court, but we haven't been to the autumn court as far as I can remember. So hopefully I'll love this one, because the second one really felt like it was going towards the kind of story that I was so close to loving, but just not quite there. Hopefully this one will do it for me. And now over to past me to pick our last and sadly extra duck. And our last duck of today, hopefully, oh my gosh, there we go. It's a pink duck, and that's a middle grade duck. And the prompt, oh no, I've dropped my duck on my prompt cards. Ah, wet. And the prompt for that middle grade duck is a NetGalley book. Okay. And our last duck was really kind to us because it was a middle grade duck, and it was a middle grade NetGalley duck, which, what is better when you're struggling to focus and you're not sure if you want to be reading much? So for this one, I'm picking Twitch by M.G. Leonard. I've got this one on my NetGalley, as I literally just mentioned. It was a NetGalley middle grade duck. And this is about a bird watcher who sees a crime, I think, and then is like on the run because they see something they shouldn't have and they are running for their lives. It sounds like it's going to be very exciting for a middle grade. I've heard a lot of good stuff about M.G. Leonard's writing. She is the author of Beetle Boy, and I believe she's one of the co-authors of the... oh god, is it the Highway Train Mysteries? Please correct me if I'm wrong on that, because I know that that's got 2 authors and there's another series that has 2 authors as well. She might be the co-author on the other one. But either way, I've heard good things about her writing, and this one sounds like it's going to be right up my alley. I love birds and bird watching, and I love the idea of this small child being like, oh no, I've seen a crime. So hopefully that one will be a new favourite for us as well. And there you have it. This is our June TBR. It has been a surprisingly unchaotic month compared to last month when we were trying to squeeze in 3 read-alongs and various other things that were going on. Pared it back a bit, toned it down, trying to chill out a bit more. Hopefully it will work. Hopefully I'll feel a bit more energised in my reading by the end of June, because I am getting a bit burnt out. Is that surprising? I was reading like 15 to 20 books a month. That's not sustainable for a very long amount of time, especially when we're reading like chunkers. Before we were reading 10 to 15 books a month, 15 to 20, and they were like under 200 pages, some of them. So it was quite easy, and we were reading a lot of novellas. Now we've gone up to like 600 page books, and I'm still expecting us to be able to read 20. That is ridiculous. That is literally 12,000 pages a month. That's not happening. It's not happening, Alice. Get your head out of your clouds and be a bit more realistic. So yes, hopefully this TBR will go a bit better. I hope that you enjoyed this round of Hook a Duck. If you would like to subscribe, please do. We would be extra grateful for that. And if you'd like to like this video, then we'd also appreciate that. Leave your comments down in the comments. Leave your comments in the comments. Wow, that was an insightful remark. Leave your TBRs down in the comments so I can see what you're reading this month, and hopefully we'll have some fun discussing it. We post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, so if you would like to pop back and see any more videos from us, we would be super duper grateful. Sean will be with you in a couple of days because he does every Saturday, and I will see you again next week. Bye! Hey everyone, it's Alice and welcome to the June game of my Hook a Duck TBR game. No. Let's try again. Over here. Putting my books all in the wrong places.